The crisp air of autumn wrapped around me as I stepped out onto the porch, the vibrant colors of the leaves reflecting my mixed emotions. My recent marriage to Daniel had brought a whirlwind of excitement, yet an undercurrent of anxiety flowed through me. I had become a stepmother, a role that felt both thrilling and daunting. Blending our families was no small task, and I often found myself wrestling with insecurities that crept in like the chill of the evening breeze. Daniel's son, Alex, was charming in a way that both captivated and unsettled me. He had an easy smile and a quick wit that reminded me so much of his father. Yet there was something else, a familiarity in his gaze that sent shivers down my spine. Each time we crossed paths, I felt a strange pull toward him, as if we were bound by secrets yet to be uncovered. As I prepared dinner that evening, the aroma of roasted chicken filled our modest kitchen. I could hear Daniel's laughter drifting from the living room where he and Alex were sharing stories about their late-night fishing trips. It warmed my heart to see them bonding, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was an outsider looking in. "Hey, Anna. Dinner's ready," Daniel called out, his voice cheerful and inviting. I set the table with care, placing each fork and knife just so. The warmth of our family home enveloped me, but beneath it lay an unsettling tension. As we gathered around the table, I watched Alex interact with his father, so effortlessly at ease in their shared memories while I navigated this new territory cautiously. "Do you remember that time we caught that massive trout?" Alex asked Daniel, laughter bubbling between them. "Of course. You were so proud." Daniel chuckled as he looked at his son with admiration. The laughter echoed in my mind long after dinner ended. As night fell, I found myself wandering into the living room where Alex sat alone on the couch. He glanced up from his phone and offered me a smile that seemed to linger just a moment too long. "Want to watch something?" he suggested casually. I hesitated but nodded. We settled into the soft cushions as a classic film flickered on the screen. The warmth from the fireplace danced across the room, wrapping us in its glow. The movie played on while conversation flowed between us, light banter about favorite films and childhood memories, but there was an undercurrent of tension too palpable to ignore. As I leaned back into the couch, my heart raced when Alex shifted closer. His arm brushed against mine. It felt electric for reasons I couldn't quite articulate. The air thickened with unspoken words as our eyes met for what felt like an eternity before he broke away with a chuckle. "You're really easy to talk to," he said softly. I smiled back but couldn't shake off my discomfort. "You're not so bad yourself." The moment hung between us like fragile glass, beautiful yet precarious. As if sensing my turmoil, Alex shifted again and turned his attention back to the screen. But instead of watching the movie, my mind raced with thoughts of how quickly things had changed since marrying Daniel. Later that night, after saying goodnight to both men in my life, I lay awake in bed staring at the ceiling above me. Shadows danced across the walls as branches swayed outside our window, a reflection of my restless thoughts swirling within me. What had begun as innocent conversations now felt laden with complexity. Each interaction brought forth new layers of confusion. Days turned into weeks as autumn festivals painted our small town in vibrant hues, pumpkin patches bursting with color and local breweries buzzing with laughter from patrons celebrating harvest season. Yet beneath this festive facade loomed a growing tension within our home. I tried connecting more deeply with Daniel's family during these outings. The local brewery became our favorite spot for weekend gatherings filled with laughter over pints of amber ale and hearty meals shared among friends. But every glance exchanged with Alex sent ripples through my heart like stones dropped into still water. One crisp Saturday afternoon at the Harvest Festival grounds, surrounded by vibrant stalls selling caramel apples and handmade crafts, I caught sight of Alex standing near a booth displaying colorful autumn wreaths. He waved me over eagerly, his smile bright enough to chase away any lingering doubts from earlier days spent together. "Check this out," he exclaimed as he held up a wreath adorned with pine cones and dried flowers, a perfect blend of rustic charm and seasonal beauty. "It's lovely," I replied, genuinely impressed by his enthusiasm for something so simple yet beautiful. As we stood there admiring it together amidst laughter echoing around us, the scent of cinnamon mingling sweetly with cool air, I felt drawn closer once more toward him against all reason. "I think we should get it for Dad," he suggested playfully before adding softly under his breath, "It'll be our little secret." A jolt shot through me at those words. The innocent charm suddenly twisted into something deeper than mere jesting flirtation. It left me questioning everything about this new life I'd chosen for myself alongside Daniel, and what place Alex truly held within it all. Before long, evening fell upon us like velvet drapes closing on stage. Lanterns flickered overhead, casting soft glows around festival-goers who danced joyfully beneath twinkling stars above us, while my heart raced uncontrollably beside him. What had started as innocent mingling began morphing into something far more complicated than any autumn celebration could contain, and still unbeknownst to me lay revelations waiting just beyond reach. The laughter and music from the festival mingled with the crisp autumn air, wrapping around us like a warm embrace. I stood beside him, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and confusion. The vibrant colors of the Harvest Festival seemed to blur into a haze as we navigated through clusters of families, friends, and neighbors enjoying the evening. His charm was undeniable. Every smile, every glance felt charged with an energy that ignited something deep within me. As we moved closer to the cider booth, I caught a whiff of his cologne, a familiar scent that sent a shiver down my spine. It was my husband's signature fragrance, one I had grown accustomed to over our years together. Yet here it was, worn by his son, disarming me in ways I hadn't anticipated. "Do you want to try some?" he asked, gesturing toward the steaming cups filled with spiced apple cider. The warmth radiating from them seemed almost inviting, much like the magnetic pull I felt toward him. "Sure," I replied, attempting to keep my voice steady while my thoughts danced around the implications of our proximity. As he handed me a cup, our fingers brushed lightly. A spark ignited between us, an electric moment that left me breathless. We wandered further into the festival grounds, where laughter echoed amidst the rustling leaves. Children darted past us, their faces painted with joy as they chased after each other in games of tag. I found myself laughing along with him, sharing stories about our lives before this new chapter began. "Your father always spoke so highly of you," he said suddenly, his gaze piercing through the festive atmosphere as if searching for something deeper within me. "I can see why." His words lingered in the air like a delicate thread weaving between us. There was something unsettling about how easily he could draw me in, how quickly I felt seen by someone who was supposed to be family. As we moved toward a quieter corner of the festival grounds, away from prying eyes and laughter that felt too far removed from our reality, he leaned closer. "You know," he said softly, "it's nice having someone new around." I nodded slowly, his tone held an undertone that made my skin prickle with awareness. Was this all innocent? Or was there an unspoken agenda behind those captivating eyes? Before I could ponder further, he reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear, a simple gesture that sent warmth flooding through me. My breath hitched as he lingered there for just a moment longer than necessary. We kissed. The words hung between us like an unspoken promise or perhaps a warning I couldn't quite decipher. In that fleeting moment, time seemed suspended, the world around us faded into insignificance as we shared an unexpected intimacy beneath the stars. His lips brushed against mine softly at first, then there was urgency fueled by something neither of us could name, a need for connection that transcended reason. When we finally pulled away from each other's embrace, reality crashed back in waves. My heart raced not just from what had transpired but also from the weight of what it meant for both of us moving forward. Torn between exhilaration and guilt, I glanced back toward where my husband stood talking animatedly with friends, unaware of what had just unfolded in his absence. I shouldn't have done that, I whispered harshly to myself as if trying to anchor myself back into some semblance of propriety. He studied me closely. His expression shifted from playful charm to something more serious, almost contemplative, as if weighing his next words carefully against the backdrop of flickering lanterns and distant music. "Maybe it's time for you to explore what you really want," he suggested quietly. There was conviction in his voice that both intrigued and frightened me. The evening wore on like an old film reel playing out its final scenes, the colors vibrant yet fading fast as reality loomed ever closer. We returned to join my husband and his friends. Laughter resumed its place among us while shadows danced around corners unseen. But beneath it all lay an undercurrent, an awareness that things had irrevocably shifted between us during those stolen moments at the festival. The warmth of cider no longer held its charm as thoughts spiraled through my mind like leaves caught in an autumn gust. What would happen when morning light broke upon this secret? As we made our way home later that night, my husband driving while I sat silently beside him, I couldn't shake off what had transpired under those stars, nor could I ignore how easily charm turned into something far more dangerous than mere flirtation. My heart felt heavy with uncertainty when we arrived at our family home, a place filled with memories yet tainted by secrets now taking root within its walls. The creaking floorboards echoed softly beneath our feet as we entered. Each step felt laden with both familiarity and dread. I retreated into our bedroom while my husband settled into reading on the couch nearby. Solitude wrapped around me like an old quilt stitched together by threads both comforting and suffocating at once. Thoughts collided chaotically within, the thrill mingling uneasily with guilt over crossing boundaries previously held sacred. As sleep eluded me through hours spent tossing restlessly beneath sheets warmed by shared memories now intertwined with deception, I found myself haunted not just by what happened but also by questions lingering unanswered. What did this mean for us? How would tomorrow change everything? The night stretched on endlessly until dawn finally broke, its light seeping through curtains drawn tightly against reality outside, but clarity eluded me still. Shadows loomed larger than life even as sunlight began illuminating truths hidden beneath layers long ignored. And when morning arrived fully formed amidst gentle rays spilling across familiar spaces, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be quite the same again. The sun's rays pierced through the window, illuminating the room in a soft glow. I lay there, tangled in sheets, my heart racing with confusion and regret. The events of the previous night replayed in my mind like a haunting melody that refused to fade. Our lips met, igniting a spark I had never anticipated. It was intoxicating yet terrifying, and now, as dawn broke, the reality of what transpired began to settle like a heavy fog. I shifted slightly, trying to gather my thoughts. The familiar scent of my husband's cologne lingered in the air, but it was mixed with something else, something that reminded me of his son. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a fleeting moment of passion. It felt like a breach of trust that threatened to unravel everything I had worked for in this new life. As I sat up, the chill of morning seeped into my bones. My mind raced with questions. What had I done? How could I have let myself be swept away by someone who was supposed to be family? The thought made my stomach churn. I glanced around the room, searching for answers hidden among familiar shadows. The house was still quiet. My husband hadn't yet stirred. A part of me wanted to crawl back under the covers and pretend none of this had happened. But another part urged me to confront the truth, and fast. The weight of secrecy pressed down on me like an anchor pulling me deeper into murky waters. I slipped out of bed and padded quietly to the kitchen, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy in brewing coffee. As I waited for the kettle to whistle, memories flooded back. His laughter at the festival, those lingering glances exchanged under autumn leaves. The way he leaned closer when he spoke, making me feel alive again after years of feeling invisible. The kettle shrieked suddenly, breaking through my reverie. I poured myself a cup and leaned against the counter, staring out at the garden where colors danced in harmony with nature's symphony. Yet even amidst such beauty, an unsettling truth loomed. This garden was tainted by secrets. Just then, footsteps echoed from behind me. My husband entered the kitchen with sleep still clinging to his eyes and a warm smile on his face that made my heart ache with guilt. "Good morning," he said cheerfully as he reached for a mug. "Morning," I replied softly, forcing a smile that felt brittle on my lips. He poured himself coffee and leaned against the counter beside me. "Did you sleep well?" His tone was light but carried an undercurrent of concern. "Like a rock," I lied, unable to meet his gaze directly. "Good," he said casually before taking a sip from his mug. "We have plans today, heading over to see Mom and Dad." His parents lived nearby. They were excited about our recent marriage and eager for family gatherings. A knot tightened in my stomach at the thought of facing them while carrying this burden. "Right," I mumbled as dread washed over me like cold water. "Are you okay?" he asked suddenly, studying me closely as if sensing something amiss. "Of course," I replied too quickly, forcing another smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. His expression softened but remained skeptical. It felt like walking on eggshells between us now. One misstep could shatter everything we'd built together. After breakfast passed in strained silence punctuated by awkward small talk about mundane things, the weather, upcoming events, I found myself lost in thought again while washing dishes at the sink. The warm water flowed over my hands like time slipping away as memories swirled around. Laughter shared during our wedding reception echoed faintly in my ears alongside more recent whispers shared under cover of darkness. I caught sight of our wedding photo hanging nearby, a snapshot frozen in time where happiness radiated from both our faces, but now it felt tainted by doubt and betrayal lurking just beneath its surface. Suddenly an unexpected sound broke through. A soft knock on the door followed by footsteps outside drew my attention away from turbulent thoughts swirling within me. My heart quickened as dread settled heavily upon me again. What if it was him? What if he came seeking answers or worse? I turned off the water and dried my hands hastily before heading toward the door when another knock sounded again, a gentle reminder that life continued outside despite chaos brewing within. Opening it revealed not him but rather an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Thompson from next door stood there holding her usual basket filled with baked goods, a gesture meant for welcoming neighbors but now felt laden with unspoken questions hovering between us both like an invisible veil obscuring truths waiting to be unveiled. "Good morning. Just thought I'd bring you some muffins," she chirped cheerfully as if unaware of any underlying tension lingering around us both. "Thank you," I managed weakly while accepting her offering. An attempt at normalcy amidst turmoil threatening everything dear to me now felt futile yet necessary nonetheless given circumstances beyond mere baked goods shared between neighbors here today. As we chatted briefly about local happenings, the upcoming harvest festival seemed so far removed from current realities. I noticed her gaze lingered on mine longer than usual. Perhaps she sensed something amiss too? Or maybe it was just paranoia creeping into every interaction since last night unfolded? After exchanging pleasantries accompanied by forced smiles masking deeper emotions beneath surface layers carefully constructed over years spent together navigating complexities inherent within family dynamics, I closed door behind her feeling more alone than ever before. The day dragged on agonizingly slow until finally afternoon arrived bringing with it promise of visiting family members but also uncertainty weighing heavily upon shoulders already burdened enough without added complications introduced recently into lives, once simple albeit mundane. As we drove toward his parents' house, the car filled only silence broken occasionally by radio playing softly. I couldn't shake feeling suffocated trapped within confines created by choices made recently against better judgment guiding paths forward into unknown territories fraught danger lurking around every corner. What would happen when they found out? Would they see through facade carefully constructed around us both? Would they forgive mistakes made a long way or would anger erupt leading unraveling relationships already strained beyond recognition? Pulling into driveway brought momentary relief followed quickly replaced anxiety building within chest-threatening spillover once again. My husband smiled brightly as we exited vehicle greeting parents who stood waiting outside their home. A picturesque scene painted against backdrop autumn colors surrounding us all while masking shadows lurking just beneath surface ready pounce upon unsuspecting hearts caught unaware. But little did anyone know secrets held tightly guarded would soon unravel, bringing forth consequences far-reaching beyond imagination. The night air wrapped around us like a thick blanket, stifling and heavy with unspoken words. I could hear the faint rustle of leaves outside, the occasional distant laughter from the festival still lingering in the town. The warmth of the fire flickered in the hearth, casting playful shadows on the walls. I sat on the edge of the couch, my heart racing, replaying the events of the evening in my mind. He had been charming, more so than I remembered from before. The way he looked at me felt different tonight, intense and consuming. Each shared glance seemed to blur the lines that should have remained clear between us. The closeness we had felt during our brief moments together now echoed in my mind like a haunting melody I couldn't shake off. I caught a whiff of his cologne, the scent unmistakably reminiscent of my husband's signature fragrance. It lingered in the air, wrapping around me like a reminder that I was straying into dangerous territory. A part of me wanted to dismiss it as mere coincidence, but another part stirred with unease. "Are you okay?" His voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to reality. "Yes," I replied too quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just thinking." "About what?" he pressed gently, his brow furrowing slightly. "About how easily we crossed boundaries that should have been unyielding. About how one moment could change everything forever." "Just family stuff," I managed to say, hoping to deflect his curiosity away from deeper matters. He nodded slowly, though his expression hinted at an understanding beyond words. The way he leaned closer made my heart thump louder. It was as if he could sense my internal struggle. The evening had unfolded with laughter and shared stories over glasses of wine, but as night deepened and shadows danced around us, something shifted in our dynamic. We spent hours talking about everything and nothing, my life before marriage, his childhood memories that felt both distant and familiar. Then there was that moment, a fleeting touch on my arm that sent a shiver down my spine. It was innocent enough at first, just a brush of fingers against skin, but it ignited something within me that I hadn't anticipated feeling again so soon after marrying. "Do you ever wonder what might have been?" His question hung in the air like fog rolling over hills at dawn. "What do you mean?" I asked cautiously. "If things were different, if we hadn't become family." He paused for a moment, searching for words while looking deeply into my eyes as if trying to read my soul. I felt an inexplicable pull toward him. It was magnetic yet terrifying. The weight of our situation loomed heavily over us both, the son who had lost his mother too soon and the woman trying to find her place in a new family dynamic. "I suppose everyone wonders about what if sometimes," I replied softly, attempting to keep things light despite the heaviness settling in my chest. His gaze didn't waver. Instead, it intensified as if daring me to cross an invisible line drawn between us. And then it happened, like lightning striking unexpectedly. We spent the night together under one roof but worlds apart from reality itself. Morning light streamed through cracked curtains when I awoke alone on the couch where we had talked late into the night. My heart sank as memories flooded back with painful clarity, the laughter fading into whispers and touches lingering far too long for comfort or propriety. I glanced around nervously. Everything looked unchanged yet somehow felt irrevocably altered. The house still held its rustic charm with creaking floors beneath age-old furniture but now carried an undercurrent of secrets waiting to be unearthed. As I stood up slowly, trying to shake off remnants of sleep clinging stubbornly to me like cobwebs spun overnight by unseen spiders lurking in corners filled with shadows, my gaze fell upon an old family photo resting on a side table nearby. The image captured happier times, a younger version of my husband smiling broadly alongside his late wife and their son standing proudly between them with arms draped around each parent's shoulders. But what struck me most wasn't just their smiles, it was something else entirely, an uncanny resemblance between father and son that sent chills racing down my spine. How had I not noticed this before? It felt like pieces of a puzzle falling into place but revealing an unsettling picture instead, a truth hidden behind layers built up over years shrouded by love and loss alike. Then came another realization, that familiar scent still lingered in the air, the same cologne worn by both men now entwined within memories hauntingly close yet tragically far apart. Was this intentional? Had he purposely tried to mimic his father's essence as part of some twisted game? A knot tightened within me as doubt crept forward uninvited. Was he merely stepping into shoes left vacant by grief? Or was there more beneath this facade than met the eye? I hurriedly dressed while battling waves of confusion crashing against rational thought, the weight pressing down heavily upon me as guilt gnawed relentlessly at edges frayed by desire mingled with betrayal lurking just beneath surface tension threatening rupture altogether. "Anna?" His voice called softly from somewhere outside, warmth laced with concern wrapped around each syllable spoken aloud breaking through silence enveloping space between us both now filled only moments earlier by shared secrets whispered low amidst flickering flames casting shadows dancing across walls. "Yes?" My voice barely rose above whisper barely capable holding steady against storm brewing inside myself ready unleash fury upon unsuspecting world holding tightly onto every single choice made thus far leading inevitably toward uncertain conclusion looming ahead, waiting patiently just outreach grasp. "I thought you'd gone back to bed," he said cautiously stepping inside room catching sight quickly glancing away almost shyly embarrassed even though nothing truly shameful transpired last night except perhaps honesty laid bare exposed rawness vulnerability stripped away revealing truths long buried deep down below surface once polished bright shining brightly reflecting light shining brightly illuminating paths chosen. "I couldn't sleep," I admitted finally meeting gaze briefly before looking away again feeling heat rising cheeks flushed embarrassment mingling guilt swirling together creating tempestuous storm brewing inside threatening break free any moment now leaving wreckage behind shattered dreams. Scattered everywhere remnants past colliding harshly present future uncertain looming ahead waiting patiently watching closely every move made next. And then there it was again. The scent wafting through air reminding me painfully yet beautifully simultaneously how easily lines crossed blurred forever changing lives entwined together whether wanted or not. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow in the room. I lay in bed, my mind racing as the remnants of last night's choices washed over me like a tidal wave. The scent lingered still, an intoxicating reminder of what had transpired. It was a familiar fragrance, one I had associated with comfort and safety, yet now it felt like a shackle binding me to betrayal. I turned slowly, careful not to disturb him. The figure beside me was a silhouette against the dawn, he looked so much like my husband in that moment. The lines of his face were softened by sleep, but it was his father's essence that hung heavily in the air between us, a scent so distinct I could almost see it swirling like smoke. It was disorienting, this blend of intimacy and deceit. Thoughts spiraled around my mind like autumn leaves caught in an updraft. How had I allowed myself to be swept away? Each moment spent with him had felt electric, igniting something within me that I thought long extinguished. Yet now, with clarity creeping in like daylight through the cracks of my resolve, I understood the weight of what I had done. What would happen when my husband returned home? Would he sense something amiss? The thrill of secrecy had been intoxicating, but now it morphed into a bitter taste that clung to my tongue. I couldn't shake off the feeling that our night together had irreparably altered everything. I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake him. The creaking floorboards echoed softly beneath my feet as I made my way to the kitchen. My hands trembled slightly as I poured myself a cup of coffee, the steam curled upward, dissipating into the air like my fleeting sense of control. The house was still and quiet except for the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall, a constant reminder that time marched on relentlessly. As I sipped my coffee, Thoughts turned back to last night's encounter and how easily lines blurred in moments of vulnerability. Then came a sudden urge to confront reality head-on instead of hiding from it. Perhaps it was time to face him, the stepson who'd masqueraded as his father under cover of darkness. What would he say when morning light revealed our shared secret? Would he dismiss it as folly or embrace it as something more? A glance at an old family photo hanging on the wall caught my eye, a snapshot from happier times filled with laughter and warmth. My husband stood proudly beside his son, their smiles radiating joy and innocence untouched by shadows. As I studied their faces closely, something struck me. There was an uncanny resemblance between them that went beyond mere genetics. It seeped into their expressions and mannerisms. I approached the picture, tracing its edges with trembling fingers while memories flooded back, hints dropped casually during conversations about family history and shared stories that now took on new meaning. What if there were deeper connections than I'd ever realized? As if summoned by my thoughts, he appeared behind me, his presence both comforting and unsettling at once. "You're up early," he said softly, voice still thick with sleep. I turned slowly to face him, heart racing at how quickly intimacy could shift into discomfort. "I couldn't sleep," I replied cautiously. He stepped closer, our eyes locked for a moment before I broke away again. The weight of unspoken truths hung between us like heavy fog refusing to lift. "Last night," his voice trailed off as if searching for words that wouldn't betray us both. "Last night happened," I said firmly but quietly. "And we can't pretend it didn't." His expression shifted slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his features before being replaced by an unsettling calmness that unnerved me further. "It doesn't have to change anything," he insisted. "But it already has." My voice trembled slightly despite my efforts to remain steady. He stepped back slightly as if distancing himself from reality's sharp edges pressing in around us both. "We can keep this between us," he suggested earnestly. The thought sent chills down my spine. Keeping secrets felt like building walls around ourselves, walls destined to crumble under pressure eventually. "I can't live like this." My words came out stronger than expected. Clarity surged within me even amidst confusion swirling around our situation. His gaze dropped momentarily before returning with intensity that made me question everything again. Was this truly about desire or something deeper lurking beneath surface tensions? "Anna," his voice softened again but carried urgency this time as if pleading for understanding rather than sympathy. In that moment, another thought struck me. What if our actions weren't just impulsive decisions born out of loneliness but reflections revealing hidden truths about ourselves? Was there more at stake than just passion? "What do you want?" My question hung heavily in silence stretched taut between us, a line drawn clearly defining boundaries we both knew should never have been crossed but somehow felt too late to retract now. "I want you," he replied simply yet meaningfully, words laden with implications far beyond mere attraction lingering in air thickening around us both dangerously close proximity threatening collapse any semblance stability left standing upright amidst chaos unraveling rapidly before our eyes. Suddenly overwhelmed by emotion surging through veins coursing wildly inside heart racing faster than ever before, I took a step back breaking contact breaking spell woven tightly around us both binding together moments shared forever altered fate intertwined irrevocably changed course set upon path leading nowhere good. Then came another wave crashing over me. What about him? What did he feel beneath surface charm masking insecurities buried deep within layers only revealed through vulnerability exposed raw honesty laid bare? It was then that realization struck once more. This wasn't merely about desire or betrayal. This entanglement revealed fractures running deeper than skin. It threatened family ties forged over years built upon trust shattered now scattered across ground-littered remnants past haunting present future uncertain looming ahead waiting patiently watching closely every move made next. With shaking hands clutching tightly onto mug-filled steaming coffee warmth grounding amidst turmoil brewing inside, I faced him once more, determined not let fear dictate choices made, moving forward, navigating treacherous waters ahead, seeking clarity amidst shadows cast darkly upon lives entwined, forever changed. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's turmoil. I sat at the table, my fingers tracing the rim of my coffee mug, lost in thoughts that spiraled deeper with each passing moment. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint hint of cologne that lingered in the air, a scent I had once associated with comfort and love, now twisted into something unrecognizable. David entered, his expression a mask of concern cloaked in an unwarranted calmness. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low and steady as if testing the waters. I nodded slowly, unable to muster more than a simple acknowledgement. The weight of my choices pressed heavily on my chest, suffocating any semblance of normalcy. How could I explain to him what had happened? How could I articulate the confusion swirling within me? "Did you sleep well?" he continued, pouring himself a cup of coffee. I watched him carefully as he moved about the kitchen, pouring cream into his cup with practiced ease. He looked so much like his father, strong features softened by time and grief, but there was something else there now, something that gnawed at me like a persistent itch. "I did," I replied finally, my voice barely above a whisper. David's eyes flickered toward me, searching for signs of my inner turmoil. "You seem distant," he observed quietly. Distant? That was an understatement. My mind raced back to last night, the warmth shared under the veil of darkness and deception. A shiver ran down my spine as I recalled our embrace. It felt wrong yet intoxicating all at once. "Just tired," I managed to say, hoping he would drop it. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms over his chest. "If something's bothering you..." I cut him off before he could finish. "I'm fine." The words tasted bitter on my tongue as they left my lips. His gaze bore into me as if trying to peel back layers of pretense. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire ready to snap at any moment. "Anna," his voice softened as if sensing my struggle. The name hung in the air like a fragile promise, one I was no longer sure I could keep. In that moment, I saw vulnerability etched across David's face. Perhaps he too felt the strain of our tangled web. "I just want us to be okay," he said finally. I wanted that too, but didn't know how to bridge this chasm created overnight by betrayal and deception. "We will be," I replied half-heartedly. As David turned away to pour another cup, a flicker of movement caught my eye from outside the window. A figure crossing our yard swiftly before disappearing into the trees lining our property line. My heart raced at the sight. Perhaps it was just a trick of light or an animal scurrying about its business, but it felt ominous nonetheless. "Did you see that?" I asked abruptly, pointing toward where I'd seen movement. David followed my gaze but shook his head dismissively. "It's probably just a deer." "A deer?" My instincts screamed otherwise. Something felt off-kilter in our little world, like pieces shifted within a game board where rules no longer applied. As we sat together in uneasy silence sipping coffee, reality settled around us like thick fog obscuring clarity and truth alike. The doorbell rang suddenly, a sharp sound cutting through our quiet tension like a knife through butter. David shot me an uncertain glance before heading toward the door, his demeanor shifting from concerned husband to cautious protector in an instant. My heart thudded loudly against my ribcage as he opened it wide enough for both curiosity and caution to spill through its threshold. Standing there was Sarah, the neighbor whose cheerful disposition usually brought warmth but today carried an air tinged with urgency that made me uneasy. "Hey. Sorry to drop by unannounced," she said brightly, but her eyes danced nervously around us before settling on David first, then flicking toward me briefly before returning back again, a telltale sign she sensed something amiss between us. "What's going on?" David asked cautiously while leaning against the doorframe, his body language protective yet inviting enough for her not to feel dismissed outright. I saw someone lurking around your property last night, she replied breathlessly, her tone shifting from casual chit-chat into serious territory, instantly gripping hold onto both our attentions tightly, now woven together by shared concern rather than familial bonds alone. What do you mean? My voice came out sharper than intended, anxiety creeping into every word spoken aloud as dread pooled within me like poison seeping slowly through cracks left unattended far too long already. It looked like someone was watching your house, or maybe even trying to get inside. Her gaze darted back towards me again before resting firmly on David's face, now filled with disbelief mixed with concern, an unsettling combination that set off alarms ringing loudly throughout every fiber within myself, urging action forward, instead remaining stagnant, trapped beneath shadows cast deep over lives intertwined without choice made willingly anymore. We should call someone, David suggested quietly after processing her words fully while still holding onto doorframe tightly enough, knuckles turned white under pressure building steadily beneath surface calm exterior maintained so valiantly until now threatened by truths unraveling quickly around us all. Maybe we should check outside first, Sarah interjected thoughtfully, her eyes widening slightly, suggesting fear creeping closer towards edges previously kept at bay until this very moment arrived unexpectedly, knocking loudly upon doors long closed. My heart raced faster still as we stepped outside together, three figures standing united against unknown threats lingering just beyond sight, hidden amongst trees surrounding familiar grounds once deemed safe sanctuary, filled laughter, memories echoing softly through time lost now forever changed, marked indelibly by choices made recklessly without regard, consequences looming ahead, waiting patiently, watching closely every move taken next. As we walked cautiously around perimeter home, scanning for signs anything unusual lurking nearby, shadows seemed darker, somehow more foreboding than moments before, leaving behind comfort, safety once cherished dearly replaced instead uncertainty, anxiety gnawing relentlessly away at sanity, clinging desperately against tides threatening pull downwards, spiraling out control faster than anticipated possible. Then suddenly David stopped abruptly, causing both Sarah and myself bump gently into him, unaware, tension rising sharply amongst three hearts beating wildly, each one echoing loudest, thoughts racing alongside, silent fears unspoken lingering, ever-present, haunting lives intertwined, forever changed by deceptions woven intricately throughout fabric existence, shared together, bound tightly yet fraying edges, exposed raw truths hidden beneath layers, carefully constructed illusions shattered irreparably now laid bare, exposed fully, daylight revealing everything hidden, darkness cast firmly across, paths traveled onward into future uncertain, looming ahead, waiting patiently, watching closely every move made next. The morning sun streamed through the window, illuminating the remnants of last night's turmoil. I sat on the edge of the bed, the sheets tangled around my legs like the confusion in my mind. David's scent lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of his father and our shared moments that now felt tainted by deception. The weight of betrayal pressed heavily on my chest, each breath a reminder of choices made in darkness. I glanced at David, still asleep beside me. His features were soft in slumber, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was lying next to a stranger. The man I thought I had known was merely an illusion crafted from shadows and lies. The reality of what had transpired between us gnawed at me, a relentless whisper echoing through my thoughts. How could I have been so blind? The charm that had drawn me in like moth to flame now felt like chains binding me to a web spun with deceit. Memories of laughter shared over dinner and quiet conversations faded into whispers of guilt. Each moment replayed in my mind like a film stuck on repeat, taunting me with what could have been if honesty had prevailed. I rose quietly, careful not to disturb him. The house felt eerily silent as I moved through the familiar hallways, each creak of the floorboards amplifying my unease. The kitchen beckoned, a place once filled with warmth now seemed cold and uninviting. I poured myself a cup of coffee, hoping its bitter taste would ground me amidst the chaos swirling inside. As I stood by the window, watching leaves dance in the crisp morning breeze, thoughts turned to my husband. He deserved better than this tangled mess we had created. My heart sank at the thought of his trusting smile, the way he looked at me as if I were his whole world. How could I face him after everything? A soft rustling behind me broke my reverie. David emerged from our bedroom, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Morning," he said softly, his voice laced with uncertainty. "Morning," I replied, keeping my tone neutral as if we were merely acquaintances sharing coffee rather than participants in an emotional minefield. He stepped closer, searching for connection within this fragile atmosphere. "Last night," his words trailed off as if he feared what might follow. "Last night changes everything," I interrupted gently yet firmly, knowing that any attempt to soften the truth would only prolong this agony. His gaze dropped to the floor, shame flickered across his features before he regained composure. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." "Then how did it happen?" My voice was steadier than I felt inside, a facade masking turmoil churning beneath. David shifted uncomfortably but met my eyes with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "I thought you needed someone who understood you." "Someone who understood me?" The incredulity seeped into my tone before I could stop it. "You thought pretending to be your father was understanding?" He opened his mouth as if to defend himself but closed it again when he saw my expression, a mixture of anger and hurt that must have reflected back at him like a mirror. "I'm sorry," he finally managed to say, but those words felt hollow against the backdrop of what we had shared, what we had stolen from each other and from his father. The door creaked open behind us. John stepped into the kitchen with a sleepy smile that faltered when he noticed our tense silence. "Everything okay?" My heart raced as panic surged through me like ice water. How could we explain away this morning without revealing truths better left unspoken? "Just discussing plans for today," I said quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. John nodded slowly but didn't look convinced. His gaze flickered between David and me as if sensing something amiss beneath our practiced calmness. "Right," he said finally, pouring himself coffee while casting furtive glances our way, his intuition sharper than either of us anticipated. As breakfast unfolded around us, awkward silences punctuated by forced laughter, I found myself grappling with guilt over how easily we fell into familial roles despite everything hanging in balance above us like an unsteady chandelier ready to crash down at any moment. After breakfast ended and John headed out for errands, leaving David and me alone once more, I turned towards him again, resolve hardening within me like steel forged through fire. "We need to talk about this," I stated firmly, no longer willing to dance around truths that threatened our family's very foundation. David nodded slightly but hesitated before responding. Uncertainty clouded his expression as if grappling with consequences too vast for him alone to bear. "I didn't want it to be like this," he finally confessed quietly, his vulnerability disarming yet infuriating all at once. "I know." My voice softened despite myself, empathy creeping back into view despite all reason urging caution instead, a dangerous mix fueling emotions already frayed beyond recognition. "But you need to understand," he paused again, the weight of unsaid words heavy between us, before continuing hesitantly, "This isn't just about us anymore." "What do you mean?" Confusion washed over me anew, an unwelcome tide crashing against fragile shores already worn thin by conflict. "If your husband finds out," his voice trailed off again, but fear painted vivid images across both our minds, betrayal unveiled beneath bright daylight, a truth too painful for any heart tethered together by love yet fractured beyond repair due solely because trust had been so carelessly discarded amidst seduction's embrace cloaked beneath shadows cast long ago. A sudden knock interrupted our spiraling thoughts, a loud rap echoing through silence thickened by tension hanging heavy across every corner within this home once filled only with joy now transformed irreversibly into something darker entirely. "Who is it?" My heart raced once more, the urgency clawing deep within as dread settled heavily upon shoulders already burdened enough without adding further complications into equation waiting patiently just outside doorframe looming ominously ahead. The knock reverberated through the house, shaking the very foundation of my thoughts. I glanced at the door, my heart thudding loudly in my chest. The warmth of the evening faded, leaving only an icy grip of uncertainty. "Who is it?" I managed to call out, my voice trembling slightly. Silence answered me, thick and suffocating. I turned to face him, my husband's son, his expression caught between concern and something darker, something I had yet to fully comprehend. The night had brought with it a veil of confusion, and now this intrusion felt like a cruel reminder of the chaos that had invaded our lives. "Should we open it?" he asked softly, his eyes searching mine for reassurance. I hesitated. What lay beyond that door? Was it a neighbor? An old friend? Or perhaps someone who could unravel the fragile web we had spun around ourselves? "Maybe we should just ignore it," I suggested, though doubt crept into my voice. "No," he replied firmly. "We can't hide forever." With that, he moved toward the door, and I felt a surge of panic rise within me. The consequences of our actions loomed large, shadows stretching across the floorboards like ghosts from our pasts. He opened the door slowly, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim light spilling from inside. My breath caught as recognition washed over me. The neighbor from across the street stood there, her brow furrowed with worry. "Is everything all right?" she asked, glancing between us with an expression that seemed to pierce through our facade. "Just fine," I stammered, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "I heard some shouting," she continued, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she could sense something amiss. "Are you sure you don't need help?" "We're okay," he interjected quickly. "Just a little disagreement about family matters." Her gaze lingered on him before shifting back to me. "You know where to find me if you need anything." With that, she turned and walked away into the night. As the door clicked shut behind her, tension hung thick in the air once more. The weight of our secret pressed down heavily upon us. "What now?" I whispered, feeling lost in this tangled web we had woven together. He stepped closer, his presence both comforting and unsettling at once. "We need to talk about what happened." The words hung between us like an unspoken agreement, a pact forged in confusion and desire. But beneath it all lay an undercurrent of fear of what would happen if anyone discovered our truth. "I don't know if we can keep pretending," I admitted quietly. His eyes darkened with emotion as he reached for my hand. "We can figure this out together." But could we? The lines between right and wrong blurred further with each passing moment. My heart raced as I thought about my husband, his trust shattered by mere deception that had spiraled out of control. Suddenly, another knock echoed through the house, this one louder and more insistent than before. My stomach dropped at the sound, dread pooled within me like ice water. "Who is it now?" He looked at me with wide eyes filled with apprehension. "I don't know," I breathed out shakily as I moved toward the door again despite every instinct screaming at me to retreat into safety instead. With trembling hands gripping the doorknob tightly enough to turn my knuckles white against its brass surface, I opened up once more only for shockwaves to ripple through me upon seeing who stood there this time, my husband's brother, a man whom I hadn't seen in years but remembered distinctly from family gatherings long past. "What are you doing here?" I managed to ask while trying desperately not to betray any sense of panic lurking beneath surface calmness displayed outwardly toward him now standing before us both looking far too curious about what was transpiring inside this home. "I came by because I wanted to check on you guys after hearing some rumors around town," he said casually, but there was an edge in his voice, a hint of suspicion lurking just beneath casual demeanor which sent chills racing down spine instantly making every hair stand on end. "Rumors? What rumors?" My mind raced back through recent events, the whispers shared over glasses filled with local brews during autumn festivals and laughter echoing amidst vibrant fall colors blurring together into an indistinct haze where everything seemed perfect until secrets began unraveling threads binding us all together. My husband's brother peered closely into our faces, searching for answers hidden behind strange smiles worn too thin amidst mounting tension filling every corner around us. Now suffocating warmth once felt here earlier replaced entirely by cold dread settling deep within bones instead. Is everything all right? He pressed further, still studying us both intently now, his gaze flickering between two faces betraying nothing except uncertainty, growing heavier by each passing moment spent standing there under scrutiny which felt unbearable, almost suffocating entirely. I glanced sideways toward him, the son who had become so much more than just family recently, yet also someone carrying burdens far heavier than any should bear alone. Guilt etched deep across features, reflecting turmoil brewing beneath surface calmness held onto tightly despite everything threatening collapse around us all. Yes, he finally replied, breaking silence, first stepping forward, slightly blocking view from brother while trying desperately maintain composure even though emotions swirled dangerously close, threatening spill over, completely uncontrollable if pushed too far beyond limits already tested so fiercely tonight alone. But how long could we keep this charade alive? How much longer before someone uncovered truth buried beneath layers built up carefully over time until now threatening unravel, completely leaving nothing but destruction behind? A sudden realization hit me hard, the weight pressing down heavier still, knowing full well consequences awaited should anyone discover what truly unfolded here tonight. Lives forever altered beyond repair, leaving scars deep enough never heal fully even when time passed, allowing wounds fade slowly away, eventually fading, memories replaced only by echoes haunting hearts still aching long after closure sought remained elusive, always just outreach waiting patiently forevermore. We need to talk, my husband's brother insisted, finally breaking silence again, drawing attention back toward him. Eyes narrowing, suspiciously assessing situation unfolding before him, carefully weighing options now laid bare before all three, standing here together facing uncertain future ahead filled only darkness looming ever closer, threatening swallow whole everything left untouched, thus far remaining hidden safe away, tucked neatly inside shadows cast long ago.